Alright, time to get started on the tires, and this is step number 64. You're going to need to open your bag I, which has a whole bunch of screws in it, and some spacers and some wheel hexes and other things. Let's go ahead and grab our wheels. If you think parts are missing, which I did, they're probably not. They're probably already stuck together like so. Some were together in my bag, some were apart. So let's go ahead and take this all apart. The other thing we're going to need is your tires and foams. My foams came pre-installed, which is good. Tires are all nice and round. The foams in there are already expanded and doing very well. Okay, this part is actually very easy, but can be very, very tricky as well. Let's take a look at our center of our wheel. You're going to see that there are two little nubs in there, one on each side. Okay, that is the back, and that's where we're going to slide this particular unit in, and you'll see that there's little notches on here. So you're going to have to spin that around until the notches line up, and then we're going to put this unit in on the top, and we're going to spin that around until the holes line up. You can see that the holes all line up, and that's what we're going to have to do once this is inside the tire. Bead locks, very tricky, but very easy at the same time. These particular tires are universal. There's no front, no rear, so it doesn't matter how you put them on. You don't have to worry about a direction. Let's go ahead and slide the center hub in, and we're going to lift up the tires around it so that it is fully seated inside on both the front and the rear. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and choose a side. I'm going to start with the front, and I know that this is the front because these pegs are all the way down. They're not even in there, and they're down towards the lower portion. Let's peek under here and make sure that our foams are not coming up over the lip of the wheel. Okay, if you see the tire is built, it has that little lip on there, and that goes down around the outside of the hub, and we don't want the foam rubber to be pinched up when we put the bead lock on. So that's how that should be. So since that's the front, again, we know it's the front because these little pegs are low. They're more towards the bottom. Let's go ahead and take and slide that over. Just gently press it down on there. Turn the tire over. Again, let's peek at the foams. You can see how the foams are coming up over the top there. That's really not what we want. You can go in there and just gently press it down with your finger and make sure that it's not covering the lip of the back of that center hub. And this should fall down nice right in there, just like that. You don't want any wrinkles, you don't want any bumps. It needs to be all nice in there and smooth. Now there's little notches here. Let's peek in there and we'll find the notches here, and we're going to push that down in until it lines up with a notch. And if you have to get those screws to align, go ahead and hold that and move the front of the tire or the wheel around until those screw holes match up. At this point, you're going to see that there's a pretty big gap in between where the screws go, and that's all good. Okay, let's just leave it like that and set it down and start to put your screws in. We're just going to start all of the screws, maybe just a couple of turns. So we're going to put them in, finish any little final alignment. You can press down on this if you want, and we're just going to put that in just a couple of turns. Now let's go around and go to the opposite side, and we're going to put these on in a pattern. You don't want to just go around in a circle, you definitely want to put them on in a pattern. So we're going to go ahead and start all of these. Bead locks, much nicer than gluing tires, trust me. What's nice about them is if you want to change your tires, you don't have to buy new wheels. If you want to change your wheels, you don't have to buy new tires because they're not glued on permanently, which is very nice. There's many different brands of wheels, and you can get licensed wheels such as the Methods. My favorite wheels and licensing stuff is put out by a company called Vanquish Products, and you might want to check those out if you're looking for some fancy wheels. There are many other companies that have them as well. Definitely worth checking out. Okay, so we've got all of those in, and there should still be a pretty big gap right in here. Let's get that going. Should still be a pretty big gap. You can see the screw there. What we're going to do at this point is double check everything. Make sure nothing's pinched. Make sure there's no big wrinkles. I kind of like to go around and there's a little mark on the outside of the tire. I'm just going around until that's even. Kind of evens things up a little bit. I'm going to flip the tire over. Do it again on this side. We're checking everything. I'm also feeling to make sure that there's no foam rubbers wrinkled up in there, because you'll be able to feel it through the tire. That's what it should look like. If you're, I did this on purpose, if you end up pulling around the tire a little bit and it pulls out like that, that's not good. You're going to have to take it back out and start over again. You do not want these bead locks or the tires to pull out of the beads. That means that everything was not properly in there when I put the screws in. So I'll revisit that one later off camera. I just wanted to do that to show you. Once you're happy with everything, go ahead and do 4 or 5 turns on each screw, again in a star pattern. You don't want to just go in a circle. Things end up getting uneven, they end up pulling out, and that's really not what you want. So just keep doing this, and eventually you're going to see the 2 pieces of plastic that there, you could see the screw in between them earlier. You're just going to want to keep going in a star pattern, tighten these down until those 2 pieces of plastic just touch. You do not want to over tighten these. There's no need for it, and the screws will strip out. If you don't know if they're touching or not, if you can't see in there, just use your fingernail, and there should be no gap. I'm around here now as to where there's almost no gap in any of them, so I'm just going to go in a circle now and just double checking to make sure that they're all where they need to be. So yes, bead locks are easy, but they are tricky. You do have to get them right. Otherwise your wheels or tires are going to pull out of your wheels. And we don't want that. Okay, once you're satisfied that all these are tight and that they're good, we're going to give it a double check here. Going to go around, make sure all of them are touching with no gaps. You can see in there that they're all touching, and I didn't over tighten them. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to pull on the tires. Pull on them pretty hard. And you see how they're staying in there? There's nothing pulling out like you saw on the other one. That means that they are properly, whoop, got to revisit that one. That's why we do that, just to double check to make sure that they're not going to pull out where we're driving. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the other 4 tires put together properly, and we'll be right back. Steps number 65 and 66 are pretty straightforward. We need to add spacers in the back of the wheels. If you take a look, there are 2 different spacers. One is a short, which goes on the front, the others along, which goes on the rear. If you take a look, the side is just flat. The side has a little circle that comes up out of it, and they're both the same. These are going to go with the circle side into the back of the hub. And then at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to spin this around until we see the holes line up, and then we're going to go ahead and insert the screws into them. And it will look like this when you're done. So go ahead and do 2 fronts and 2 rears, and we'll be right back, and we'll put them on the truck.